Let's go to our chief political commentator, and that is Peter Cardwell, who joins us live now from Downing Street. Thank you very much for joining us, Peter. You were in the press conference. As always with Rishi Sunak, short but sweet statement, trying to come off the back foot where he's been all week on the Rwanda bill. Did he do enough?
Well, he certainly made his message very, very clear to the House of Lords that he expects and wants them to pass it. Labour, who have the majority or the most Lords anyway, have a convention of not stopping government legislation that's gone through the House of Commons. So it does look as if it will happen. But then the questions are, when will the flights take off? He'd previously committed to the spring. There was no such commitment today, although James Cleverly, the Home Secretary, rode back a little bit on that as well a couple of days ago. So there's a lot going on here. It was interesting. So I think we're hearing some of the early election phrases. We're sticking to the plan. There was a lot of sticking to the plan, Julia. There was a lot as well of talking about long-term decisions and the fact that, in his view, Keir Starmer has no plan in terms of stopping the boats or even smashing the criminal gangs. And Rishi Sunak pointed out that Keir Starmer had voted against legislation that would actually do that and has done that. So I think Rishi Sunak, he kept trying to tell us, almost convince us, I think, that the nation, that it was the Conservative Party was united. As we've seen over the past few days, that is just not the case.
No, indeed. And all this lines about, stop the boats, stop the flights. But again, trying to set this up as a battle, which I suppose it is really, between an elected House of Commons and an unelected, appointed House of Lords. There's no Tory majority there. And in fact, even a lot of the Tory peers would be opposed to this measure. And various, people, sort of the bleeding arters coming out and saying, our standing in the world legally and morally will be, damned forever if we do something which even the UN and other European Union countries have done. Which is sending people to be processed abroad. I mean, I don't remember anyone thinking that Australia was suddenly an absolute pariah nation because they process people offshore. But there we are. Do you think this is ever going to actually get on the statute book? And do you think those flights are ever going to take off?
I think it will get on the statute book, but of course the question still legally and those individual claims from many people who will be put on those flights or attempted to be put on those flights. There's also the question of the companies that may, the airlines themselves. There was an attempt by the Home Office to actually buy a plane, which was vetoed by Rishi Sunak. So this has been, as Keir Starmer put it the other day, a bit of a farcical policy so far. I think it will get on the statute books. I think with the third reading, the very important part of the process having been passed yesterday, that's probably the major hurdle. But there is, as you correctly intimate, a world of pain awaiting in the House of Lords. We're going to have all sorts of people who've already had Lord Bourne, Nick Bourne, former minister, talking about this, saying that he thinks that it's unworkable. He's a Conservative. We've had Alex Carlisle, Lord Carlisle, the former sort of terrorism expert. We've had all sort of Justin Welby, the Archbishop of Canterbury, is going to be talking about this as well.
Has he taken anyone in yet? I thought he was going to house a load of Channel migrants in Lambeth Palace. He's got more spare rooms than most of us.
I haven't heard that he has, Julia. No, I know that he allowed Boris Johnson to run around his gardens, but in terms of migrants, I don't think he's really had the opportunity to take them in yet.
There's an image in my head that I didn't really need on a Thursday morning. We were just talking about this a little bit earlier with James Hill from The Spectator, and I want to put the same question to you. How much is what the MPs who did go to the final rebellion, we know the 60 MPs who were saying, we're loyal to the government, we just want to improve this bill, we're negotiating, we're just trying to push through these amendments to make this bill stronger. But then they towed the line at the end, or they abstained, and we spoke to Jonathan Gullis on the show yesterday. But those who went ahead and voted against the government, Suella Braverman, former Home Secretary, Robert Jenrick, former Immigration Minister, the two people actually really most associated with this policy, actually trying to design this policy, saying the policy won't work, there's no point having this bill, it won't actually do the job. How much of this is about them trying to get this policy, hard and fast and get planes off the ground and deal with the Channel migrant boats? And how much of this is about leadership prospects in the future? And how much is about telling their own constituents, as we've seen this latest poll, looking terrible for Labour, saying, but no, the government might be messing up, but look at me, I'm doing my best.
Robert Jenrick, always beware a politician on a diet. He is someone who sees himself with leadership ambitions, or certainly, he would certainly want to be Home Secretary. That's something that he is very, very clear about. Suella Braverman as well will almost certainly be a leadership contender. So will James Cleverly. So it'll be very, very interesting to see what happens after the next election, when it looks, certainly, the Times poll this morning voting for YouGov, putting Labour 27 points ahead.
Yeah.
The Conservatives at roughly the same place they were towards the end of the Liz Truss administration.
Yeah, and of course, crucially, Reform UK sneaking up, and we saw that Telegraph poll recently as well, and the analysis that suggested actually there were 100 Tory seats that would be lost to Labour and other bodies because Reform UK would split that right-wing, middle-right vote. And Reform UK said they're going to stand against every sitting MP, and they are in every constituency, and they won't do a deal with the Tories. That creeping up of the Reform UK vote is definitely focusing minds in the Tory party, isn't it?
It certainly is, and really there is a lot of threat from Reform UK. They may not get through and get MPs, but they'll certainly affect the result of the 2024 election. It's interesting as well with Reform UK in that in 2019, them not standing, the Brexit Party as it then was, not standing, made a huge difference in a number of constituencies, especially marginal constituencies. And really, if Labour don't pick them up, and Reform will possibly help Labour in some of those constituencies, but it is a real worry for the Conservative Party, and that is why I think those 11 people who voted against the Conservatives last night will face no sanction whatsoever from Rishi Sunak or his whipping operation, the discipline of the party. Very
interesting. Peter Cardwell, thank you very much. We're going to let you go and escape into the warmth. Very good scarf action this morning outside Number 10. You look very, very cosy.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Peter Cardwell, our chief political commentator.